Friends, welcome back to another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I am really happy to share this podcast episode because, friends, this is like a memo to myself. It still happens, and that's why we just all need to band together and need this constant encouragement and these little reminders of, oh yeah, get back on the road, get out of the ditch, or get off that pathway, come back. Somebody's roping you in. And that's exactly what I am doing here this morning. But before we get started, hey, I just want to remind everybody that this broadcast is made possible by thegardenersworkshop.com. And that is home base to everything we do at the Gardener's Workshop, from tons of resources, a fully stocked online garden shop that actually sells primarily just the same stuff that you hear me talk about, because we only sell those things that I use. The same tools, the same seeds that I start from, the supplies, and of course, it's home base to my books, y'all. I would love to sign one of my books for you. And in addition to that, our online library of courses is always growing and expanding. We are all about meeting the needs of small cut flower growers, budding growers, those people that are going and taking that step just like I did, from a gardener to an avid gardener, into saying, I'd like to actually make this my side hustle or build a big business or start my career. We've got you covered, friends. So you'll find a fully stocked online course library over at thegardenersworkshop.com. And lastly, friends, be sure to sign up for our farm newsletter. We send out a high volume of content. We have so much content available. Our newsletter helps to point you at content that is relevant for the moment and help you to find that. And we'd love for you to be a part of that. So friends, let's talk about the hardest job of the season. And, for me, every season is a challenge, whether it's right now. So I'm recording this in early June. So we're heading into high season for those of us that grow a lot of outside in the garden field stuff. And for my Australian listeners, you're the complete opposite of us. So you can dream about it. But I want to say that getting caught up in the season of harvest and planting and selling and all those things you have to do, I find that every season I face this challenge, this hard thing I have to constantly reel myself back in. And that is to stay stellarly focused on what the goal is. And now remember, y'all, I never achieve that. It's never completed. It's never done. And that just made me think of an experience I had so many years ago. And I think I mentioned this in my first book, Cool Flowers. By the way, did you know that this is 2024 is the 10-year anniversary of Cool Flowers? And did you know that I just heard from my publisher recently, we sell more Cool Flower books per year now than we did when it first came out. That is so unusual for a book, y'all. But anyway, in that book, I believe I spoke of how my neighbor, Oliver, who was, he's long gone now, was probably in his late 80s when we had this discussion at the fence. So to picture this, my little city farm is in the middle of 200,000 residents. So I'm totally surrounded by homes, right? And right next door to me, up until about 4 years ago, was a 40-acre horse boarding farm. It was actually, Oliver and his family had a dairy farm there. And as he transitioned into retirement, he converted it to horse boarding to pay the city real estate taxes, which were about $30,000 a year. And that's a whole nother discussion. But he converted it to a horse boarding. I mean, what better place in the middle of the city? It's like he had no lack of tenants, right? So anyway, so Oliver still mowed his fields, and I would be out. This was way back, y'all, but when I was pretty much by myself, and I can remember being out in the field or out in I had two gardens back then, 2 quarter-acre gardens, And I did everything. Sold, started from seed, planted, weeded, cut, bunched, delivered, the whole 9 yards. So I was one busy girl. Well, I would hear Oliver's mower long before he got over near my fence, right? And I can remember I was hot. It was probably, in the mid-afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I shouldn't have been out there cutting, but didn't have much choice. And finally, he made it to my fence. And when he was getting close, I thought, I do not have time to stop and talk to this man. Holy cow. But of course, I had to finish cutting flowers. And then he showed up. He pulls up to the fence, turns his motor off, and I walk over to the fence. And I purposely did not put my flowers in the bucket. I kept them in my hand, thinking that would make me just talk for a minute and go back to what I was doing, and for him to see that I was in the middle of doing something, right? Anyway, he said, "Oh my gosh, Lisa, what is wrong with you? You look like you're about to expire." And first he gave me a talk about, that's the day I learned that I had to wear a hat in the garden. And he's the one that turned me on to the helmet hat that I wear, which is that hard hat like your mailman wears. Totally changed my heat level life, y'all. And you can find that on our website if you need one. Anyway, so he said, "What is wrong?" And I can remember almost bursting into tears and saying to Oliver, "Oliver, I get up every morning with a list of things to do from the day before and all the things that are going through my mind. And, the whole time you're out there cutting flowers, I don't know about you, but I am making up, oh, I should do this. I wonder about that. Oh, look, I got to do that over there. I got to do this." And I'm a list person. So I'd jot all those things down. Told Oliver, I get up in the morning and I have this enormous list of things to do. And when I go to bed at night, the list is longer than when I got up in the morning, even though I've checked off all of these things. And I really felt like a failure, y'all. I really felt like I wasn't farming right. I wasn't doing everything right, even though I was incredibly successful. Because remember, my whole motto as a flower farmer is to have more customers waiting for flowers than flowers to sell to them. I mean, that's pressure, but it's worse than not selling your flowers. So anyway, Oliver I wish y'all could see a picture of Oliver. I bet dripping wet, he didn't weigh 110 pounds. He is a little man, and pushed his helmet, kind of back on his head. And he said, "Well, let me tell you something, Lisa. I have from 6 a.m. until 4 to 5 o'clock every day to get this job done." And he was a dairy farmer, so he knows exactly about endless things to do, right? I get up and have the same number of hours every single day, Monday through Friday. And if I can't get the jobs done, they don't get done. The key is you have to choose jobs that are truly important to you. Every business is like this. We feel like we have more work than anybody else in the world. Well, that's because we make it that way. You don't have to totally consume yourself. You just have to be the grown and make the choice and do the jobs that are truly significant. You may have heard mention taking that step from being a home gardener into starting a business is taking your gardener glasses off and putting your farming glasses on. And it's a whole new world, y'all. It's like putting glasses on for the very first time. So Oliver's pep talk that day changed my farming life. Just knowing that I was still going to face that struggle every single day, no matter what season I face. But my job as the business owner, as the grown up, as the adult in this relationship was to choose what was I going to spend my time doing. And I find that this is the hardest job of the season. And I've got a list of things that I'm going to suggest to you. But before I jump into that, I feel like I face this in every season. I mean, even in the dead of winter. So the dead of winter is just as busy for me, even as, I have my business is way beyond flower farming now, right? But as a flower farmer, do you have any inkling of how much footwork, groundwork, foundation work can be done to alleviate your entire harvest season? But what happens is people go in, it's like they're bears. We climb into the hole and hibernate. If we pace ourselves, know what the work is, and take care of it, I can't tell you how much smoother. So for me, this isn't just what happens in the heat of the harvest season. I face this challenge in everything single seasons. What I found is just a really challenge for me is realizing that I can take a step back, stop for a moment to figure out what is it that I should be doing. I always feel like I can't stop long enough. I mean, I am the worst, y'all. It's like, no, we just got to do the job. Stop trying to figure out how to do it, Suzanne. Let's just do it and take a page from that book, y'all. We have got to, you've got to take a moment, got to take a breath and actually figure out those things that are the most significant to your business that affect the bottom line, not. And I mean, oh my goodness, you've got to put away these grandeur expectations. It's so lofty, isn't it, that we see so many people doing stuff and we jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And that's what fuels this challenge of not being able to get anything done really very well. So what I want to say is you have to take a minute to figure out, particularly this time of the year. I mean, this is the hardest time of the year to have to take a step back and figure out because if you're in the heat of the moment. But I'm here to tell you folks, 2 months from now, for me, we are so hot and exhausted in the season that if you don't have some kind of focus, you are just going to spiral, crash, and burn. And so let's try to, what is some triage that you can actually do? First off, do your very best to resist the distractions. And what are the distractions? If you're going to farmers markets, walking and looking at other people's stuff, which I mean, there's definitely value in that, but don't automatically assume what you're doing is not working, not good enough, and change your lane completely. That would be like changing lanes on the interstate without looking before you pull over. You know what I mean? Doing that kind of stuff in the heat of the moment, even though it feels like you're desperate, right? It feels right. I would be willing to say that that's probably not the right thing to do. So resisting the distractions is so difficult, but so helpful, y'all. So for me, the number one thing that I do to keep me on point is I have structured days, meaning, Mondays and Thursdays, we cut flowers. All the flowers that we cut on Monday were out of here on Tuesday. Wednesday was my paper pushing day. And when I was pushing paper, the team was planting, seed starting, and weeding, and everybody had their respective job, for years. Thursdays, we cut flowers again. Fridays was our members only market here on the farm, delivery to supermarkets, and preparation for farmers markets on Saturdays. So every day had its job. And I just can't even tell you how that structure got me through. I mean, we had like 8 to 10 years of really high production when we were producing 10 to 15,000 stems of flowers a week. Y'all have any idea how much work that is? All that seed starting, planting, weeding, netting, maintaining, harvesting, bunching, preparing, processing, selling, delivering, collecting, paperwork. You getting the idea? What I see as the biggest market of potential domestic cut flower growers is the person that doesn't want to be that big. They want to create a part-time income for their family. And it's kind of where we are right now. You can do it. So that means Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, guess what? I don't even think about what's going on this farm except walk in my gardens. It is possible, y'all. But you have to resist the distraction. So structuring your days is huge. For me, I thought, okay, word's out. I have 20 plus florists. I'm selling to supermarkets. I'm selling at farmers markets. I have this members only market. But guess what, friends? If you stop pushing the word, why do you think marketing is such a huge industry? Because there's a lot of people clamoring for people's attention. And there are very simple ways to market your business. So sometimes when I grow those small, you're like, oh, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that. And you can do all that. I'm here to just tell you there's a much simpler and straightforward way again, focusing on the things that are significant to you, right? So growing, 20 feet of the same flower instead of 4 different flowers, only 5 foot. It's just harder to make bouquets. It's just a little bit more work, as we're making these speed bouquets for our gifting. It's really annoying when it's like a bucket won't, you grab a bucket full of flowers to lay them down as we make our bouquets. It's like there's not enough for every one of them because we do speed bouquets high volume at one time. And it's so much simpler. So that's just another part of is to grow more of less. And then, lastly, friends, and I'll wrap this up, streamline, 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 better known as simplify, simplify, simplify. Before you're really in the heat of particularly the harvest planting season, you just don't understand how valuable your time is and what you really should be doing or not doing. And, my motto has always been eat the ugly frog first. That means do the job you least want to do. For instance, a great example, on harvest day, if there is a particular flower that you dread cutting because it's hard to strip or whatever, do that one first thing in the morning. It will just puff you up for the rest of the day. For us here, I'm just trying to think. For me, it was Gomphrena for years, which is, much to most people's surprise, a very high valued crop. I mean, we love Gomphrena. In fact, we succession plant Gomphrena 3 times and I grow about 7 colors. So because we're back into this smaller, I'm doing some of the cutting and we figure it out or we move on. So simplify, simplify, and another simplification, and then I really am wrapping this up, is to tend to your business as it moves. And that means don't do paperwork once a month, y'all. You got to do it every week, because if you don't have time to do it now, if you think piling it up on your desk is going to make it easier, I can testify that it doesn't happen. So friends, I just really wanted to come on here to say that everybody, we all feel your pain. That's the nature of entrepreneurship. It all comes down to you developing your skill as a business owner. And so be sure to hit thegardenersworkshop.com. Sign up for the news. It's at the bottom of every web page. And check us out, friends.